Yo, my name is Big Lou, and you are now listening to Go Produce. We're the show that explores how music industry professionals turn their passions into profit. In this episode, we've got Ali Shafi, a human on many missions who is also one of the people behind Escapade Music Festival, Metro Music Festival, and more. The Go Produce focus of this episode is what makes an event successful and what are the driving forces that maintain them. If you are interested in promoting and hosting events, then this episode is for you. Okay. Thank you, Ali, for being here. I want to know that we do really appreciate your time. So why don't we go ahead and make the most of it and go produce. Listeners, let me tell you who we've got here for you today. Ali Shafi, he's the Director of Strategic Partnerships at DNA Live, which is an Ottawa event production company that runs Escapade Music Festival, some Ottawa venues, and eateries and bars like Riviera, Lower Town Brewery, Clock Tower Pub, and more. Ali Shafi, welcome to the show.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Like I said, we do appreciate your time, so we're going to go right into it. Right into our first segment. The first segment of today is called Boom, the Basics. Oh. Yeah, I saw your head bobbing. I'm hoping by the end of this, we get the whole body going. A little bit of grooving. We'll see what happens.
I was looking at the Grumpy Sound Guy's visual, actually.
Fair. He is comedic. He's funny looking. Okay, take it easy. First question I want to start off with, Ali, is what is your first musical memory?
Oof, my first musical memory. I would say, I don't know why this is coming up to me, but maybe it's because it really got me started. Is I remember going to a beachside rave in Acapulco, Mexico. I would have probably been 18, maybe 17, 18 years old. And I don't even remember how I ended up doing that. It was just, I remember being in Acapulco, and I think it was just some locals are like, hey, we're going to go to this thing. And we got on a bus for an hour, and it was literally in the middle of nowhere. You walk through a jungle to get there. And it was like one of the craziest experiences ever. And, now, however many years later, I'm kind of throwing similar parties. So I would say that's probably what's ingrained in my head.
I think we're in for one wild treat. I mean,
yeah.
I could say the same. I ended up in Mexico on a bus doing some kind of crazy things, but I didn't end up doing all of that you did. So that's kind of cool. And the fact that you already said that maybe it ties into how you lived out the rest of your life. I wonder, was there any musical influence before that happened?
I don't think so, to be honest. Like, as soon as you asked me that question, for some reason, that's what kind of popped into my head. I mean, obviously, being in and around venues and nightclubs and everything, sure, you're around music, but in terms of being around music versus it influencing me, I would say that's probably what it would have been.
That's super awesome. Very cool. All right, cool. How about Escapade Music Festival? Tell us about your role in this event and how that festival came to be.
So I run Escapade. So I'm the director of the festival. It came to be in 2010. We started with an idea of kind of just throwing a Canada Day party in a parking lot downtown Ottawa. We had deadmau5, who is our first performer for the festival. It was like, I think we did just over 2,000 people, didn't make any money, but for Ottawa, it was like, whoa, this is something cool. And, from there, we kind of just started to grow. The next year, we had Tiesto in the same parking lot. We sold out. All of a sudden, we were at 5,000 people, and we're like, okay, well, we're sold out. What do we do?
So you went from 2,000 to 5,000 within a year.
Yeah, we went 2,000, 5,000, and then the following year, we moved out to a stadium setup, and we went to 15,000. So, we're now in last year was our 10th anniversary. It was the first year we've ever sold out of the festival, which was 40,000 people. So, in 10 years, we went from 2,000 to 40,000. And it's been a pretty wild ride.
It seems so. Did DNA Live stem from Escapade?
Yeah, so DNA Live was essentially when we started Escapade, it was two different companies that basically started it together. And then we essentially merged and created DNA Live in 2012, I think it was.
Okay. So can you tell us what DNA Live offers separately to Escapade then?
Yeah. So essentially, we're just an event production business. So we produce our own events. We produce events for other people, and kind of anything that's in event production, concerts, etc. So we've done charity events, we've done corporate events, we've done our own festivals. We're launching a wine and food festival in November. We've got a children's festival that was supposed to happen this summer that's going to get pushed to next year. So really, anything is in that festival and concert space, whether it's our own or for someone else, that's what we are.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm hearing right off the start, you've got Dead Mouse, you've got Tiesto, you got a new company branching off of Escapade. But what initially inspired you to start Escapade? I know you had a conversation with a group of friends, but were you doing any kinds of event promotion before?
Yeah, so I was always in kind of the promoter world, let's say. I remember, I was being a promoter Ottawa's beside Gatineau, which is Quebec. So the drinking age was 18 there, but people were drinking there when they were 15. It was kind of like the thing to do. So, I started doing some pub nights, let's call it, when I was in high school out in Gatineau. And then it evolved into my last year of high school. I would have been 17, and I started doing parties in Ottawa, and it was just West End style nightclub that was kind of a hot spot at the time, and I became their in-house promoter, and I was using a fake ID actually to the owner to be able to work there. And I remember one night he actually said, "Hey, let me see your ID," and he looked at my ID. It was my cousin's ID, and he came to me and he said, "You know what? It's a good thing you packed my bar, because if not, you never get in here." Because he knew it was a fake ID the whole time. Yeah, I wasn't old enough. I was in high school. It was like Thursday nights. I'd be basically, skipping out on school nights on my parents and saying I'm sleeping at a friend's house to go promote. So,
Ali,
um,
people don't sneak out of their house to do that. They don't
yeah,
get fake
no,
IDs to go and do that stuff.
no, no.
That's
So
awesome.
that's pretty much kind of where it started. And then, it's if I'll give you the full story. I mean, it kind of turned into, I all of a sudden took that nightclub promotion stuff and I started promoting spring break trips. So I started sending all my friends and a bunch of different schools and everything to, Mexico on spring break for their high school grads and stuff like that. And that's probably where I first got my taste of, doing these types of events, because I started doing these concerts in Mexico on spring break. And then, I said, "Yeah, I like this." And so there were some guys here that were doing it in Ottawa. And I said, "Hey, we should look at doing this together." That's where it started.
That's awesome. Okay. So, on top of what we've already discussed, you also play a role in Riverside Festival, Metro Festival, Crave Food and Wine Festival, and more. Tell us about these other event related ventures.
Yeah. So Riverside is a festival that was not ours. It started with our partners in Gatineau. I think 8 years ago. We got involved 5 years ago. I think it was a festival that was trying to grow, but maybe just needed a little bit of strategic help in terms of how to get there. When we got on board, I think they were doing like 500 people. Last year, we sold out Riverside for the first year, and we did 8,000 people. So in 5 years, we kind of grew it from 500 to 8,000. Great partners. They're the DNA on the Quebec side, and we do a lot of stuff with them. And I think they've got a great team too. So we're excited about where that project is going, and it's cool because Escapade is usually in June, Riverside is in September. So we kind of own the beginning and the end of festival season in the region. So does really well. Metro, that's a good one. So
That's most recent, right?
yeah, so Metro, we launched last year in Montreal with our partners in Montreal, which is the Midway Group, which owns Beach Club as their main. It's like one of the best beach clubs in the world. I think it was like number 40 this year. So they're partners of ours, and they came to us and said, "Hey, we should start an urban festival," and there isn't really one in Canada. So we took the jump last year to start Metro, which is an urban branded festival. Crushed it. I think we did 35,000 people in our first
Oh,
year.
wow.
Huge, huge, huge. We had Cardi B, we had Future, Snoop, Tyga, Sean Paul. Awesome, awesome
Yeah,
lineup. It
a big
was
lineup.
Yeah, and to be honest, it was one of the best festivals. I'm not saying it because it's something I'm involved with, but out of all the festivals I've ever been to in terms of organization vibe, hands down one of the best festivals I've ever seen executed. So it was awesome. It was supposed to happen this year in May, and unfortunately, with everything, it didn't pan out. We had Travis Scott who was headlining, so our lineup was
That would have been a show.
Yeah, Travis, Roddy Rich, sorry, 50 Cent, the baby. It was a tough one because we were just we were going to crush, and it was the most talked about festival I think in Canada that people were talking about. So, but it is what it is, and we're going to come back next year, 10 times stronger.
Exactly.
So
You won't let
we're
this knock
super
you off.
stoked. Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah,
I mentioned Crave Food and Wine Festival.
yeah. Um, pretty self-explanatory. We're launching a wine and food show in Ottawa to appeal to a more business clientele, older demographic, and that's happening in November. So we're excited about that one. And it's something that Ottawa doesn't have right now. Obviously, it's big in Toronto. I think there's a big one in Montreal, a big one in Calgary. So we know that the market needs it, so we jumped on it.
Man, are you only one person? Because you're doing lots. I got
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
What about
yeah.
Montebello Rock Fest? What's going on there?
So Montebello Rock Fest was something that we were involved with last year, and we ended up kind of just going a different direction, and the partners stayed with that. So it didn't jive with kind of what our vision was. So we did it for a year, and moved on from it.
Which is realistic. Not everything always goes according to plan.
No, yeah, sometimes some partners have different ideas. Sometimes certain things don't make sense in certain places or whatever. So you just got to know. I'm all about driving, being a driving force behind something until we realize, it's 100% not going to be feasible. I'm not like a one and done kind of person. So, we'll always give something a shot, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, and it's for the better. And that's that.
But it's worth a shot, yeah.
Yeah, everything's worth a shot.
Why, with all of your history and your experience, why do you continue to create, well, despite the current times, why do you continue to create large scale events of like this magnitude? Is it something specifically about them that you like?
Um, I love to be busy. I can't not be busy. I go crazy. I'm going crazy right now, not being as busy as I want to be. And I think that, you know, the rush and the motivation you get from doing bigger events is probably what drives me. I think that if I, not to say that I wouldn't do 100-person events. I mean, that's not saying that at all. We do a lot of events that are smaller, whether it's a charity event or a corporate event, etc. But I just think that, you know, you just get like the motivation from doing something where it's like sitting out on the audience and seeing 40,000 people, like, and to be like, we did that, my team and I did that, like that in itself is like, it's priceless.
Okay. So a past guest on our show mentioned that there's like a significant feeling that one gets when organizing or working one of these events. It's almost a moment of euphoria, and that kept him coming back from time to time. Is that something similar? Can you relate to that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, last year, Escapade was a perfect example. We had Martin Garrix that was supposed to headline the festival. He ended up breaking his leg a few weeks out and wasn't able to perform. We're sold out. It's like one of our main headliners. What are we going to do? Pull in some favors, and last minute Tiesto jumps in, and Tiesto fills in for Martin Garrix and closes the festival on the Sunday night. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was like
Wow.
standing in the VIP after not sleeping for a week, setting everything up, and just seeing everyone go crazy. Not a cloud in the sky. Super nice day. It's like that's you can't buy that type of euphoria.
Is it a fleeting moment? Does it come and go like nothing?
It fully comes and goes like nothing.
Yeah. And does
Like,
it usually come at the end? Like when it's
yeah,
almost
like I
said and
think,
done, but like you still have a little bit more to do, but you can actually appreciate.
no, I think it's the next morning when you
Oh,
wake up and you go back to the site and you're like, ah, shit, it's over. Like all that work and it's gone in like like people say, like sometimes when you're like planning your own wedding, and all of a sudden it's like you spent all year planning a wedding, and then it's like it's over, and you're like, yeah, I mean, it's done. I think it does feel like that for sure. It's like you spent all this time, and it's because you don't really like. I mean, for myself, like I'm not one to sit during the festival and like have a table in the VIP and get drunk with my friends. Like I'm not even having a drink. I'm like, this has got to be flawless, and we got to do what we can. So you don't really enjoy it per se. What you do is you get a sense of, like you said, like a sense of euphoria or a sense of pride to know that you did it. But you don't go through the festival weekend enjoying it because there's always something. So you're always dealing with something.
I wonder if that's what like the secret is in order to grow what you've been able to grow, because a lot of people will do one or two festivals here and there, but you just you said you like to keep busy so you don't stop. I like that.
No, not at all.
But I want to conclude this segment. That was our first round, not so basic questions. I hope you're feeling great because next up we've got our speed round. Okay, so what we're going to do in the speed round is I'm going to throw you 20 simple questions, and they're designed for you to answer with just one word. Cool? So yes, no, this, that, both, neither. And then afterwards, we do have the opportunity to expand. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, let's get it going. Big party or small gathering?
Big party.
Does your birthday always happen on the same day?
Yes.
Is it true that you can also speak French, Persian, and Spanish?
Not so much Spanish 100%, but the others, yes.
Ooh. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
What's the first thing you can think of that's the color blue?
Swimming pool? I don't know why.
I like that. Would you rather have a live-in massage therapist or a live-in chef?
Chef.
Is it true that in 2019, Escapade Music Festival sold out for the first time in history?
That is true.
That is true. 40,000 people, you said?
Record time by February.
Wow.
It's great.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Both, I would say.
All right. Ottawa is your hometown.
Correct.
Would you rather always get stuck in traffic or always have a really slow internet connection?
Stuck in traffic.
Fair. Metro is a festival that's dedicated to the development of the urban music scene.
Correct.
Domestic or international travel?
International.
Do UFOs have a weight limit for carry-on luggage?
No.
Would you rather be poor or work at a job you love? Or rich and work at a job you hate?
Oof. Poor working a job I love.
Would you say that Crave's priority is to enable the vendors to have meaningful interactions with its attendees so that they will visit the restaurants once the festival is complete?
Correct.
That's the plan. Work hard or play hard?
Work hard and play hard. Can you do both? I think
most definitely you can. What's the first thing you can think of?
I do both. So yeah.
No choice, yes. What's the first thing you can think of that's the color red? Also a swimming pool.
A fire engine? A fire truck?
Fair. Would you rather be without the internet for a week or without your phone?
The internet.
Does Riverside Festival take place on the grounds of the Canadian Museum of History?
Correct.
Cool. And would you rather hear the good news or the bad news first?
Bad news.
Bad news. Boom. Okay, that's fair. That's 20 questions.
Boom.
Ali, I want to ask you, is there anything that you want to clarify out of those 20? Did any of them stick out?
Yeah, that I've been locked in the house for too long. So I gave some random color answers.
Yeah, we try and throw those
my
into
brain is thinking, yeah, swimming pool and fire truck. I have no idea what's going on.
I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. French and Persian, you're fluent with, comfortable with.
Yeah.
Is that background or?
Yeah, my background is Persian. So my parents put me in Persian school from when I was young, like every Saturday for I don't even know how many years. So definitely fluent in Persian and French. Yeah, I was in French school, French immersion my whole life. Spanish, I think I've just picked up. I can understand it pretty good.
There are
Speak
similarities in
is
French and Spanish.
yeah,
Yeah.
speak is meh, I would say, but everyone says the amount of times I've been to Mexico and the amount of work I do there, it's pretty embarrassing that I can't speak it. So we'll see. Maybe in the next 10 years I'll pick it up.
It'll come. It'll come with time. It'll come with
Yeah,
time. We mentioned that Escapade Music Festival sold out for the first time in 2019.
yeah.
And you said that it started slow, but it almost went off to a meteoric rise. When it comes back, are you trying to go bigger or are you trying to maintain what you've done?
Um, I think that we still have room to grow. I don't ever think that we're going to be a 50, 60,000 person festival or anything. So I think we're conscious of the fact that we're in Ottawa, that we're electronic music, etc. So I think that we still got a little bit of room to grow and make it bigger. That said, we never want to go away from what made it successful. One of the biggest things that people always said about Escapade, it was like the biggest little festival they'd ever been to, and that's what made it cool. Was they didn't walk kilometers to get from one stage to the other. They never felt like they were just overwhelmed. You could constantly meet people because the odds of you seeing that same person again in those 2 days is pretty likely. So that, I think, is what differentiates us from some of the other festivals in Canada that are much bigger. And I think that's really what we want to keep, for everyone to know Escapade as.
Right. Right. Interesting. You're building a community, a tight knit community, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, exactly. Like we don't really consider them, ticket buyers. We consider everyone, almost a part of our family, right? So even if you only come to us once or you're coming, I mean, we have some people that have been Escapade 10 years in a row, and they've
Diehards.
grown with us, and that's amazing to hear those stories every year. It's like you'll get someone will message you, be like, hey, I want to propose to my girlfriend. We met at Escapade 8 years ago or whatever it is. Stuff like that is amazing. It shows us that what our recipe is exactly where we want it to be, where people consider us, a family almost, and look forward to that weekend every year.
That's awesome. Does that apply across all of the festivals that you are involved with? Or is like your different festival have different cultures, different themes to them? Obviously different
No,
themes,
I
but
think I think everything is different. I think every property that we do is unique in its own way. Riverside is predominantly Gatineau and French based audience, but our model there is one stage, bunch of acts, but a lower ticket price that kind of everyone can afford. So Riverside is really driven to be a really big party, while Escapade is more of a festival with multiple stages and stuff like that. So I think everything we do is different, and just whether that's the audience or whether it could be the site. Is sometimes where one location is different than the next, and so you really got to tailor your event based around that.
it's a lot. Right.
Yeah.
Why do you prefer Bad News first?
Because bad news it puts you in the shitter, and then the good news brings you up. So I'd rather have the negative come and then know that there's a positive coming behind it versus getting the positive and then having that positive be taken away quickly with the negative.
But what if you're already having a bad day? Then
As
same
long as
thing, same thing.
is there a positive coming? If there's a positive coming, I'd rather have the positive last because
That's what you finish
whatever,
on.
yeah, yeah, because that's exactly the rest of your day is going to go off of the positive because that's what you finish on.
Yeah, it lingers. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Yes, that concludes this segment. I just looked over my list, and I don't think that there is anything else that I would like to clarify. The rest of it was very straightforward. I do appreciate this segment because there is lots to learn when you just throw questions at people. So that's why we got this one in. Okay, all right. That leads us into our third segment of today. The third segment is called "What's Yo Take?"
What's your take? Okay.
All right. In What's Your Take, I'm going to provide you with different quotes, statements, topics, or ideas, and we just asked you to share your perspective on it. Cool?
Oof, okay.
Nice and
Let's
simple.
do it.
Curating new and fresh events that keeps attendance high is a coin toss. You never really know what side you'll land on. What's your take?
Um, yeah, I'm a 50-50 on that. I think that you're not going to curate a new event if you don't at least have an understanding of what side you think you're going to land on. I mean, so I think that there's always a gamble in everything that you do. I mean, no one can predict anything, but I think that whenever you're creating a new event, you've got a you've got a vision in play, and the reason you're putting that vision in play is because you know there's got to be a demand for that type of event. So if the demand is there because you've obviously done your research, then you should come out on the right end of it.
So you're doing your due diligence. How long can that look like? How much time, for example, would you be spending on that before you take the next step?
I mean, sometimes it could be, you know, weeks, sometimes it could be years. Our wine and food show was probably 4 years in the making before we kind of saw that the time was right. You know, we're doing some events now that we're about to launch, given the, you know, COVID situation that we did our due diligence in, you know, a month on and kind of thought, okay, this could work and that couldn't work type of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's really depends on the type of event and you know what you're trying to achieve out of the event. Is it a big event, small event? How much is the investment? You know, obviously the higher the investment and the risk, then the more you're gonna do due diligence on.
Yeah. And once you've considered those factors, what other things are you researching? Like competitors? Are you researching demographics? What else?
Yeah, obviously competitors, demographics, making sure that you've got the right venue, making sure that you know obviously that the numbers make sense. You know, you're not doing it, and no one's doing anything to lose money. You know, so making sure that financially it's something that's a model that could work for you know many years to come. Um, Obviously, you know, is it a high risk type of event or a low risk type of event? That'll impact, you know, what kind of sponsors you can get or what kind of partners you can get or how much pushback you'll get from, you know, a municipality or a province or whatever. So I think there's a lot of different things that, you know, you got to consider. And that's a lot of things that most people don't consider. They think, oh, I got a bunch of money, I'm going to throw an event, you know, and it's like all of a sudden, you know, you don't realize how many roadblocks there is till you can actually open the doors of your event.
Right. Is based off of all your experience, do you now have somewhat of a formula to predict that people will attend your event?
um I wouldn't say a formula per se, but I would say there's a checklist of things that we're always looking at before we do anything. You know, all those items that we talked about are things that we're, you know, anytime we want to launch something new or even an existing thing year to year, we're still going through those same checklists and making sure, hey, you know, is Escapade going to check off all these boxes, or you know, has the times changed or the market changed or whatever, and should there be some sort of you know left turn that we should be making on a property.
Right. Right. What's about what about you mentioned it obviously varies with different events, but is there an ideal venue? Obviously, you have to consider price, but are there other kinds of factors that you consider when booking a venue for a particular event?
I guess obviously it has to do with the event, but you know each event could be different. But from a festival, if you're talking a festival, you know, I think let me ask the question a different way. I've done a lot of different events, and I would say I've never worked in a venue that is perfect because every venue is going to have positives, but every venue is going to have challenges. You know, so you know, Escapade right now we think it's at the best venue we've done. Could there potentially be a better venue? Yes. I mean, there's always going to be something better because nothing is perfect. But you know, I would say you typically looking for a venue that is either central or has you know accessibility from you know public transportation, things like that. If you're outdoors, you want to make sure you've got grass, you want to make sure you're not near you know a ton of houses. If it's a music festival, you want to make sure you know you're close to emergency services, things like that. So you know I think everything is how can people get in and out, how much parking is there. So there's a lot of things to consider, but you know I don't think I've ever been to a festival site anywhere that's been a perfect venue.
Flawless execution, yeah. Has there ever been a situation, no need to name drop, but where you held an event or a festival or a small gathering, whatever it may be, and the venue just did not cut it? It was far from ideal. It was the opposite. And because of that, it was a failure. Did that ever happen?
Um, I would say I don't I can't think of one where it became a failure. Was there a venue that didn't cut it? 100%. But, luckily I've got a strong team and, we're able to make anything work, I would say. But, for sure, there's been tons of venues we've worked with that have not cut it and we've never gone back to. But I wouldn't say that it's caused any of our events to become a failure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Above all else, attendees showing up to an event is what makes it successful. What's your take?
100%. I mean, if people don't show up to an event, you have no event.
I agree.
So
More would you say more than the entertainment or any factor solely because of that? Like if your entertainers don't show up, is that horrible or
well, obviously, if an entertainer doesn't show up, then the person who showed up to see that entertainer is going to come at you and say, "Well, I paid money to see X, Y, Z, and they're not here." But I think that if you've got a strong enough brand and event, that people will show up regardless of the entertainers. And Escapade is probably a perfect model for that. We were 70% sold out of the festival before announcing any single artist. So people realize what they're getting, and they know that our lineup is going to be strong, they know that the experience is going to be good. So for us, that's more important than, not to say that it's than any artist we book. Obviously the artist plays a huge factor. We wouldn't be where we are if we didn't pick the right talent or the right venue or whatever. But I think that once you earn your attendees trust in any type of event, really doesn't matter if it's a small event, large event, food event, music event, once you earn their trust, then they'll keep coming back. So in reality, if you don't have attendees, you don't have an event.
it's so true? But you've legit the built I want to say from the ground up with this festival, and you've got a reputation. You've got like a package that is expected that you deliver time in and time out. But what's your take on you're only as good as your last event?
Um, yeah, like, I mean, we're not perfect. So we know that every time we do an event that we need to look at the things that we did wrong and make sure we better them for the next time. So, yeah, last year we had a great festival. We sold out, weather was beautiful, artists all performed. Is there things that next year we're going to change? 100%. I mean, we already know we've got a laundry list of things that we're going to do differently. If someone was on this show and they said I went to Escapade in 2010 and then I went to Escapade in 2020, like, or 2019, I mean, they would be like blown away at how different it's been. But I think anytime, if you're an event producer of any kind and you just try and replicate the same successful model you've had over and over and not really change it, you're eventually going to fail because that's not keeping up with the times. So there's never a perfect model. No one's ever perfect. So if you do something, you got to make sure that the next year it's better.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. What do you think of the phrase "bite off more than one can chew" in relation to creating and managing multiple events?
Um, Guilty. I mean,
I promise this wasn't directed towards you.
yeah. Yeah, I think, as an event producer, you always kind of want to try and, I would say in my earlier years, it was like, let's do everything and anything, and we'll try all the ideas, and didn't really think it through. Now, there's some events that we've been doing for years that make us money, and we've stopped doing them because it's like it doesn't really make sense because we're doing this event for to hopefully make this much money, but instead we're sacrificing this other event that could do significantly better. So now our model has changed and we're more like let's focus on what we can do, what we've got the time to do, and let's perfect those events and not worry about trying to, you know, take on something that, we're going to basically go, we're going to half-ass it like that. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Don't
make
You're wasting
sense.
everyone's time if you do that.
Yeah, yeah. So
How do you manage such a workload then? Like every time you bring on a new event, do you hire new employees or what?
so we're actually only a team of 3 full-time people. Yeah. So I would say I am exactly, I've got 2 other people that are the same mindset as me, and work just hard. And we do what some people do with 20, 30 employees, we do with like 3. um, but you know does that mean that we don't bring on other people? No, I think every project we do, we bring on more people for those projects. But it's more of a case by case. I think you know, it's really like you got to find the right people on your team,
That was my next question.
you
Like,
know, and make sure that they jive with you and that you're able to kind of have this be on the same wavelength. And once you got people that are on the same wavelength as you, like you can do 10 times more. You can do anything. Yeah, like so. Knock on wood, we've been lucky, and we're doing well.
that's impressive. When what between the three of you, how do you have this is flabbergasting for me.
Yeah.
What kind of marketing strategies do you put in place? Like, is one person responsible for all the talent buys, logistics, planning? How do you maneuver that with just a small team like that?
Yeah, I would say everyone wears a lot of hats, so we've got one person who does marketing, who's also involved in talent buying, who's also involved in artist relationships. And we've got another person who's involved in operations, but is also involved in, partnerships, and is, in 10 other things. Myself, like I'm involved in kind of a bit of everything. So, I'll oversee stuff from talent, marketing, operations, logistics, kind of the whole shebang. So that's why we come together as a unit where everyone kind of knows everything that's going on. So it all just it just works. I don't know. Like, I mean, people have the same reaction when I'm like, yeah, we're 3 full-time people. I mean, yeah, we've got 10 part-timers or whatever it is, but and from a full-time perspective, we're 3 people in the office every day. That's it. That's all. And we're just always in tune with each other. So yeah, exactly. We're a cohesive unit.
Yeah. For young event promoters, what do you believe is the most important one of everything that you just spoke of to get or begin accomplishing to your level or to something similar along your levels? You mentioned a team because you can't do everything by yourself. But how does one find a team? Like, you didn't just, hello, now we're on a team and we're going to change the world. What happened there?
Um, well, all of us at some point worked together on some level on something, whether it was an event together, or whether it was, Alex, who does our talent buying and our marketing. He used to be a promoter for us, and kind of worked his way up the ladder, and then ended up being a full-time person. So I think it really, it's not like, hey, I'm going to have a job posting and I'm going to, interview 20 different people. Sure, yeah, you might find somebody through that, but at the same time, I think that your comfort level with whoever you're going to work with needs to be something that, they've got to have the same vision. If they've got the same vision, then you've probably dealt with them on some other level at some point on something. What do I say to a young person that's trying to get in the game? I think it sounds silly because everyone says dream big. Like, I don't necessarily believe in the dream big. I think that if you start small, the big will come. Like, if you execute, if you're trying to do a festival, don't think that you're going to launch something tomorrow and get 30,000 people. Start with an event, start with, grow that and build that like we did, and take the baby steps. Everyone wants to run. I'm a huge believer in walk before you run. Don't, because if you try and run right away, it's not going to
You're
work.
going to fall. You're going to break ankles. You're going to have 2 knee surgeries like I did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we won't get into that.
it's not going to work. So, start small. Don't look at the big guy and be like, I'm going to be him next year, because it's going to take time. I mean, it took me time. It's not like I was the first person that did it. For me to become what the bigger guys were in Ottawa, it took time. So, yeah.
I hear you. Beautiful, Ali. That's segment. We are now on to our 4th segment. The 4th segment is a wheel challenge. We're going to have some fun with this one. In the wheel challenge, I'm going to spin the wheel for you, and you're going to have to complete whatever task is assigned. You probably can't see it so well, but that's okay. I will make sure that you are up to date. Any questions? Nope. Okay,
Nope,
let's do it.
Nope. This will be fun. Let's see it.
All right. Okay, I really like this one. I'm glad I asked you earlier if you have a pen and a paper, because you are going to be drawing blindfolded, my friend.
Oof,
We're not
great.
actually going to blindfold
Okay.
you, but
Okay.
we asked you
My-
just not to look down at your paper. You can look at the screen, you can look up, do whatever you like, but you've got 10 seconds to draw a simple item. We're going to try this 3
Okay.
times, okay?
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, you're in it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the first drawing I want you to draw is a river. 10 seconds, go.
A river?
A river. 5, 4, 3, 2. All right, that's time. Let's see what you got. Angry sound guy, what is that? Oh, he's giving you the bell. It's good. That's good. That's 1 point for you.
That's good.
Okay. Let's see if you can keep it up. Keep it up. Your next object will be to draw a wine glass. 5 seconds. You're good to go? All right, let's see it.
Done.
No time. Hey. Yeah. That's another bell. You're 2 for 3. You're killing it. Can you get a perfect score?
2 for 2.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm jumping the gun here. You are 2 for 2. Can you make it 3 for 3? The third object is a heart eye emoji.
Heart eye emoji?
Yeah, the emoji with heart eyes. Good luck.
Oh, yeah, okay.
10. It's 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Good to go? All right, let's see it. Oh, wow. What do we think? So I guess I was right with 2 for 3.
What does a heart emoji look like? Isn't that pretty close?
I to be honest, I would have given you that one and not the river. But
yeah,
hey, here we are.
Okay. I'm looking at an emoji now. Okay. Yeah, cool. 2 for 3.
For next time. That's awesome. There's only one way I like to describe that challenge, and it's a wheel challenge. This time it wasn't for me. I guess it wasn't so much for you either, but we like to have some fun with that. Okay, now time for our final segment of the show. This segment is called Clear the Air. In this segment, we're going to ask you to be honest about challenges within the industry. Essentially, we want to help others become better and avoid unnecessary hurdles. So the first question is, what makes an event successful, and how do you measure that success?
I mean, I would think a lot of things make an event successful. Number one, obviously, everyone always says, okay, well, did the event make money? So yes, does an event make money? Is that a level of success? For sure. That said, is a level of success also, the reactions of people at the event, the reactions of people after the event, how safe was your event? how did the artists, or let's say the performers or whatever it was, how did they enjoy your event? So I think all those are things that you've got to take into account for sure, to measure the success of an event. What was the second question?
How do you measure it?
How do you measure it? Yeah, I mean that's
You pretty much answered
really
that, yeah.
like, yeah, that's
Yeah. I wonder, did success for an event look different 10 years ago than it does today?
um I would say yes, because 10 years ago I was young and just getting in the game, and the only thing I thought about was, how much money can I make, or can I make money for that matter. While now it's not measured by that, it's measured by, growth, and measured by, being able to continue to build strong events that, people keep coming back to. I don't think 10 years ago when we started, we were thinking of like, hey, next year we should do this and this and this. Like, it's not where we are now. You're literally looking at every single aspect of an event that you've run, and how to improve that.
How about from the public eye? Did success change from their perspective? Do you think?
Yeah, social media. I think, for sure, 10 years ago you would do an event, and sure, there might have been a little bit of social media, but you know people wouldn't be posting about how good or bad an event was based on pictures they could say or comments they could write on on Facebook or whatever. So I think for sure that's a huge measuring stick, because even if someone goes to an event and thought it was great and then goes onto your page and reads somebody say, oh well, I thought this sucked or that sucked, now their visions maybe changes. Like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that did suck. No, I didn't like the event as much. So for sure it's changed.
Interesting. We mentioned your partners already. How have your various partnerships, perhaps outside of that, affected your success in events?
What do you mean?
You had your two immediate partners, but you've also had to secure partnerships with different kinds of people, to create what you did onto that level. How would you say those relationships affected the success and the role that they played in that?
Yeah, I would say that every event that we have that has a partnership to it, those are strategic partners that we've aligned ourselves with to make sure that that event can be the most successful possibly it can be, right? So with Escapade, we had, obviously we were our own, we had our group of partners, and 3 years ago we created a partnership with the beach club guys in Montreal, and it was a strategic partnership because we saw how many people were coming from Quebec, and we knew that 30-40% of our audience was already coming from there, so it made total sense to bring on partners that benefited by being involved with something in Ottawa, while we also benefited by having them get involved with us when we already had that audience. So um, you know I think that everything, when you bring on a partner, it's not just because they're a buddy of yours, or because they've got money to invest or whatever it is. I think it really, you got to look at the partners and say, okay, what are they going to do for the growth of our festival, or our events. 2 years ago with, yeah, 2 years ago with Escapade, we brought on Live Nation as a partner. It was a great move for us, because they brought a lot of knowledge and they brought a lot of value in terms of partners and things like that that really helped the festival go to the next level. So I think everything, yeah, it just needs to make sense, just like an employee. A partner needs to make sense, as you've got to be able to jive with them.
I hear you. How do you keep up with event industry trends and news to ensure your attendance continues to grow? Are you talking to
um,
people strategically, that kind of stuff as well?
yeah, I think for sure you need to be, you need to have relationships with everybody in the industry, because I think that, you know, the common goal is, regardless of whether you've got a competing event or whatever, everyone's common goal is to make sure that whatever that industry is, whether it's electronic music or urban music or wine and food or whatever it is, we're all in the same industry, and we want that industry to flourish and to keep getting better. So you want to make sure that you've got a lot of allies in the industry, because you're all trying to achieve the same thing. um, so it's important to always be communicating with other people. At the same time, it's important to see what's going on around the world. I think Canada is great in terms of the types of events we do, but there's some things that work in Europe or work in Asia or work in Mexico that aren't necessarily happening here in Canada that maybe you can introduce into an event, or vice versa. Maybe stuff that happens in BC or whatever. So I think you're always looking at what's going on around the world. You're always looking at what's going around in your market, and then at the same time, I really rely on my team. Like I think my staff is will bring in ideas or say, hey, I think this is something we should look at, or this is an artist that is going to blow up. And I think a lot of times with our artists, like we've booked stuff on shows that I have no idea who the artist is, and it's like, trust me on this one, this is going to be good. And they've all been home runs. So you really got to learn to trust everyone around you.
That's wild. Cool. How do you suggest handling negative PR? It's pretty much something that can happen at any moment in time, right? So how do you ensure that you're best prepared?
I mean, I would say probably being straightforward and honest. I think, like, especially nowadays in with the social media era and everything, like trying to mask something and you can't pull a fast one on anyone. Like there's always going to be someone that's going to try and uncover whatever it is you're trying to cover up. So there's no point in trying to pull a fast one. So if something goes wrong or you got to deal with it, you got to just own up and say, hey, this is what happened and this is what we're going to do to fix it.
Be an adult.
I think it's exactly, be an adult. And I think we've done that with a lot of our events where we've had issues. It's like, it is what it is. This is what happened. We're sorry. I think like it sounds corny, but like honesty is the best policy. Like that I think is really important in the event.
It goes a long way.
Don't go silent. If you've done something, don't go silent. People go crazy over that.
Yeah, you're literally only going to make the problem worse.
Yeah. So, and it's tough. I mean, it's really tough to say that and trying to actually execute it, because you don't want to be honest. You don't want to just like because that the negativity that's going to come out of it is going to be like 10 times worse. But yeah, I mean, but you got to be like, and I think people will eventually understand.
Yeah. Okay. So, and if I wanted to create my own festival, what's the first piece of advice you give me to get started on the right path? One actionable item.
Your first, find a venue. Because before you can book any tickets, book any artists, sell any tickets, you find out who your partners are or suppliers or your sponsors, whatever. You have a venue, because if you don't have a venue, then I mean, at least in Ottawa, like the city's not going to tell me to go forward. So if I don't have a venue, I'm already stopped. So there's no two ways about it.
Right. And finding a venue means building a relationship with the people at the venue. It's not necessarily like, oh, here, there's more to it. But yes, cool. That is one good actionable step. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Last question. Do you smell that? The air. It's so fresh and so clean right now because we just finished clearing it. Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the very end of this show. This was very awesome. Thank you. I hope you had a fantastic time, Ali.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Beautiful. I asked you for lots of final words already, but do you have anything that you want to add that you didn't already say? Or is there any social media platforms that you want to be shared here as well?
Yeah, I mean, like our Instagram is at DNA Live and at Escapade MF. Or if you go to dnalive.ca, which is our website, that has every property that we're involved with on it, including Riverside, Crave, Metro. So I would say, go to our website, dnalive.ca, follow us, see what we're all about.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, awesome. Next, I'd like to thank our listeners. Thank you so much for joining, because without you, obviously, we wouldn't have a show. Shout out to Prevail Media Group. Without the venue and without the team, this wouldn't be a thing. Angry Sound Guy, I was going to forget you this time, but I didn't. Thank you for doing what you do. And last but not least, Ali Shafi, it was an honor having you on the show. Many thanks.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
We out. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, then follow us on Instagram at go.produce. Check out our show notes, support us on Patreon, and help us grow this community. All of this and more can be found on our website at goproduce.ca. I am Big Lou, and I want to make sure that until next time, you go produce.